Yeah, full prof here, and let's just say we got a pile of stuff to do. We're not doing this, but I am having to resort these because these guys, these mice at least, are the ones that, as you can see, they may be in containers because I wanted to keep them not dusty. Some of these are in older ones. I already went through the really old containers over here. But I want to get them in a container, and at one point I did have all the labels colored. I don't know where all of my colored electrical tape went. So for now, the only one I could find is yellow because I use that for most of my stuff. I'm just using that. So at least I can get a model on there. If you haven't seen it recently, I did put out a video on the XE V2. If that's something you're interested in, I did get a personalized one. That color is not coming through in that shadow very well. That's closer. It's very similar to the mouse pad. They call it lake green. So we're going to start with whatever's on top there. Like I said, some of you may or may not be interested in mice because I'm going to title the video whatever is in this package here, right? Oh, and for those that are interested in mice, there is a stack of unopened ones. I want that guy. That guy's got to get put away. Put this in the up here to get its own box. It's pretty disgusting. For those of you that do have some mice, and maybe you have some older ones that are actually in decent condition that you don't use anymore, older gaming mice, let me clarify that. Or I guess classic from the OG days of optical first coming out for mice. Maybe you got some original Microsoft or Logitech, that sort of stuff. Be interested in that too. But if you've got like early Razer, especially early Razer, because I used to have a pre-2007 collection of that sort of stuff. I'm interested. Let's put it that way. Or if you just have a model that you find out I don't have, hit me up because I'd be glad to take it as part of the collection. At some point, I've seen others do museums for, we're talking years out when not working, you know. But it'd be nice to actually have, like, I'm sure there are others that have bigger collections than I do. But I have a decent one. I have important models. Yeah, that's where I'm always looking for help. But in this case, we are not looking at mice. I think I know what that is. You? In this bare packaging, some of you might have seen my videos before. What I can tell you is that this may be a hint, this may be a hint, and that may be a hint. And yes, because I'm out of slots in my pen holders, this guy, especially with its special finish, is staying in its tube. This is the limited edition Basic 03. And I've now officially given away what should be in this package here. Ignore the cat fur. You can't dandruff, please. And that is, last minute, like the last day it was open, decided to subscribe to the basic subscription 2, which is 4, 5, 6. See, they keep it slim with these basic ones because, especially if you get the subscription, everything is included with your $100. Shipping as well. So you get 3 pens. You know, this is 1. I don't have 2. And then this is 3. I think they called exclusive EXC or something like that. So this, if you do the subscription, you actually get a 4th pen. So Squares actually has 2, which is this guy, except in raw aluminum. And then he has 3, which is this guy, which I think is the best design so far. I haven't opened up this one yet. He has 2 and 3. I'm glad I got this one. I really do like this simpler design. The original design will fine, and it sold very, very well. So far, I think, ignore the fancy finish on this. Imagine it's raw aluminum. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out once this one's done. I think this is probably the best design so far, balance-wise, finish-wise. The limited edition one here is quite unique. And it's like, they're probably not going to do this coating again either. It's hard to show on camera how satin it is. Actually, it like feels dry to the touch. But until I have a safe place that's not just clunking around on the desk. Unlike this guy, that's my... It used to be polished. I think it's still polished, but it's already changing while I'm using it. You can see how polished it was under the clip there. But this guy, I like I told Squeers when he actually got this for me as a present for my birthday. I consider the full brass one like an heirloom level modal, and I've been rocking this thing every day since. Some of you asked about the refill. We did a video on the Uniball Zento, which is one of their new refills. I am specifically, because I'm rocking this pen every day since I got it, I have been rocking the Zento refill in there. Something odd. It writes well on wood, like unfinished wood. I used it. I didn't have a pencil or a marker or anything. This happened to be in my pocket, and I just started going, and it actually wrote quite well on some plywood, some 2x4s, like I was marking them up. I'm not saying that is a recommended use of this refill, but yeah, this is what I toss around. This guy, great for tossing around. This guy, since they went the battle worn finish, great for tossing around. The more bare, like I would argue, the only like a tumbled titanium would be better probably than a brass for tossing. You know, just casually using EDC in my opinion, or a stainless steel. But like this guy, I can already tell with the finish, like even your hand, because it's a little bit rough, your hand touching it, like your dead skin cells come off and rub off on it. This guy is the Basic 4. And I'll have to bring it into work one of these days coming up and see if I can get Squeers' preference on it. I so far like it. And I knew I'd like it because they milled the whole thing. And for those wondering, no, they haven't milled the whole thing like a tactile turn. Here's the 16-bit. That is a much finer milling on a tactile turn. Like you can't even see it on that color very well. There's a raw aluminum one on this Carryology. I'm sad I missed it, the second, more limited edition Carryology. I'm sure some people are selling it for multiples of it on eBay. Even compared to the Basic 2 here, yes, this is the anodized version, or the exclusive version, or I think is what it is. And this is the one I had to add the wax to the bolt here, because it was coming unscrewed. Hasn't since I figured that out for it. But if you look, that is much finer on the Basic 2 than this. Also, these are like heavily ridged, like very pointy. This is almost flat. Like this is not very deep, and these here are flat. Like it's not like it's actually smooth despite having this sort of full length turned look. For my vibes, to be truthful, I still think design wise, I think I like the Basic 3 the best. Ignore the fancy paint job and the brass bolt there, or bolt handle. But I think this was like the best design so far. Now, for my vibes, I like this guy, where it's just like one consistent theme across the whole thing. As always, they just use a Pilot G2. Usually it's a 0.7. I don't particularly want to pull this one apart and find out. You can, with a little chopping action, stick in, like in this guy, I have a Uniball refill that I cut pretty bang on. I think the same for this guy. You can see the tip on the Uniball is a little bit thinner than the G2. So that's why if you can, you want to get it more in the body like that than sticking out like that, in my opinion. I almost got this guy, like I said, pretty darn perfect there. You can see here. So, and the reason why the Uniball over here sticks out more is because that refill is, it's not even like the refill's longer. It's like where the dimensions of the refill are make the tip slightly longer. And the stepping of the tip is slightly longer. But usually if you cut off, I would start with 1 millimeter off the back end of the refill. Depending on the Euro 110 refill, which is the style that Uniball makes their refills in, you might have to take 2 millimeters. But for some pens, 2 millimeters is way too much, and the tip won't even be fully extended out all the way. So you'd rather take off less than more. And then if it's still not enough, you kind of like can shave off some more. Some of them need so little off the back that you can just sand it off. Like I grab just a little square of sandpaper and just go, and that's good enough to get it to go. I think this one's classy. The hand feel of this is, and I don't know if it's because it's been turned the way it is. I don't want to call it mouth feel. That's not the right term, but hand feel of like the basic 1, the basic 2, the basic 3, the non-anodized, non-finished versions. It was very like aluminum tent pole. You know, like all tent poles are fiberglass now. Yeah, I mean, when I started out, you'd have like, you know, for tents or what are those things called where you'd eat inside to keep bugs out and stuff. My brain is farting. All that would have been aluminum poles. Not like now we have the bendy, you know, you have the ones that fold over themselves and they're flexible fiberglass. Those would have been all aluminum poles that you insert a little like snappy guy you got to push down, pull up. And those were very, because they weren't anodized, they weren't just raw aluminum, and they get white dust on them and stuff like that. The original basic 1, 2, and 3 very much had that hand feel, and you can even see some of that white coming on. That's just the oxidation of the unfinished aluminum surface, and you can kind of see in there some of that's covering up, like my nail hits it, but there you can see, because it's just not tumbled and finished and milled as finely on the basic series, that you can see the milling far more than on you know, like the normal modal and stuff like that. Even on here, if we get up and we do a macro, I think we gotta go back to the 1X to actually do the macro. If we go and do the macro shot here, you may or may not be able to see, but like in between these big ridges, there are little, doesn't want a macro. Yeah, I'm bumping the camera. There are little ridges. Maybe you can see it there. So, but it's fun, and I noticed that with even the basic 2, you don't notice, I mean, granted, this one's anodized, so it does help and smooth the finish a little bit, because of, like, to anodize, you actually remove a little bit of the metal. So you can see it as much, but having this bigger texture here kind of takes your eye away from the fact that the finish, you know, like it's not milled and tumbled as fine. Remember, $29 pen, still $29. It's a bit cheaper if you do their subscription. I did their subscription. I think this pen has better hand feel than the other raw aluminum ones, you know, like the standard basic 1, 2, and 3 so far. And I really like how it looks. I still think that the textured Ultim, which they did come back through and do another run of, where this looks like more opaque than the original Ultim pens, because if you look really close, it's actually finely textured. I think that was their test to see how people took this sort of finish where like it's milled, but not as smooth. But this is nowhere near as rough in the turning of it, or the intentionality of the turning, compared to something like a tactile turn. Yeah, this is much bigger turn. Like this is where they actually make it smooth, and then right before they're done, I mean, they did put this in too, but they just turn the whole thing with the tip even on. They go, in this case, removable tip. So they actually screw it in, and then they give it a pass where it's all one continuous thing. So it's a little bit different on the Keras. Rather than that was like a design feature, this is more of a cost savings. Not that that's bad. Oh, we got the granny cat. Hey, Gertrude. How are you? Gertrude Ophelia? Yeah? How's Gertrude? Yeah? Oh, you want ups. We got a granny cat that wants ups, guys. So we're gonna close out this video, and let me know what you guys think. Which of the designs so far you did see, like, you know, what I mean by design is shape. So here's a basic 1. Basic 2. Imagine it's raw aluminum. And basic 3. And this finish is super interesting. You should check out the video on it, where we're both trying to describe it. They kind of went over the top there, and they even said after doing it once, they're never doing that finish again. So I'm glad I was able to pick it up. So, yeah. Here, let's listen to Gertrude. Yeah. Yeah, so she needs her human time. If you guys are looking for a nice pen, once again, Keras has not sent me any of these. I've purchased them. I have been a supporter, connoisseur of Keras since their original Render K for the Hi-Tec-C. I like their products. There have been lulls where I have enough of their products and I just don't buy any. What really reignited that for me was the modal. I would argue that is one of, if not the best pen out on the market right now for these machined pens. Now, from a what do I enjoy using more than a modal, I really still enjoy, oop, you fell, a standard thickness and standard length tactile turn side click. If I throw a Uniball, cellulose-based Uniball refill, that's the UMAR 83E in there, I could write a whole notebook full. You know, there's something about that pen. But as an everyday carry, I really think it's hard to beat the modal, and this is kind of Keras's. I mean, it's sold under Everyday Keras, not Keras Customs, purposely, because it's a cheaper brand. They're aiming for a different market. That's why they started a completely different brand for this. But this is kind of like your costed down everyday version of the modal. Works very much the same way, very similar length. Just less work going into it, and they're still keeping it fresh. So if you want an everyday carry, the one downside I would say is don't change out your refill for this very often. Not that you can't, you can get a replacement thing. They also say they'll cover it if it strips out, stuff like that. And I imagine they would. They've had very good support if you watch any of my other videos. Where I have had issues, I've even had issues, later on, and they've taken care of it. Not with the basic, but with other previous pens over the years. Yeah, they've taken care of it. So I don't doubt they will. I would just say if you're somebody who likes to swap refills and figure out which one you like and that sort of stuff, maybe shy away from the basic since it is a metal going into a plastic. But if you know, or you just plan on using, hey, I like the Pilot G2, and I just want a nice, better pen body that isn't this plastic, cheapy out of the box. Go for it. A lot of people see the Pilot G2 as like their favorite pen, their favorite ink or their favorite refill. That's not me. I've never been partial to it. I shouldn't say never. When it first came out, and it was one of the few gel pens available besides like Click gel pens available in the U.S. market. Because the Sakura Jelly Roll would have probably been in this market sooner, I would say, than the Pilot G2. I might be wrong there. I saw them as a kid sooner or more readily. Like I preferred writing with the Sakura, but it's not a Click pen, right? And as you saw with the Hi-Tec-C, I really like a standard Hi-Tec-C. All the variations, I shouldn't say all, actually the Hi-Tec-C Coletto, which is a multi-pen refill, writes very well. But the other Click variations of the Hi-Tec-C, very, very poor compared to the stick pen version. The longer where it can't click it out, you gotta uncap it and stuff like that. So I think that's where the U.S. likes their Click pens. And the G2 is by far and large like the pen that is sold in the U.S. for gel pens. It's just not my preferred refill. More than likely, though, if you get this as a present for somebody, this is far better than any pen that they use on the daily, and I'm all full of cat fur. And like it's a nice build aluminum pen. And to get something like this for $29, I think, is a steal. It's going to be hard to, if I recall, like there's a metal Sharpie that Sharpie will sell their Sharpie gel pen, right? That's nearing what this costs. And I would argue that this is a much better, because the metal Sharpie is literally just a metal version of the normal Sharpie, whereas this is a shrunken down, I wouldn't call it bolt action, because bolt action would imply, like that sort of thing, but sort of bolt action style pen. I would argue beggar. It's like a check mark, sort of. It's a modified version of what's on their modal. They would appreciate that, you know what I mean? And maybe like one thing that I've thought about doing is, say if you do want to use those for gifts and you know a couple of them, you could buy the subscription, get them at a reduced price, and then gift. Oh, I think this design's more that person. It might take you a little bit because it takes some time to produce it, but if you know that you're going to do it during a certain season, usually holiday season for us in the U.S., you could easily subscribe to a subscription, get all 3-4 pens, or maybe you get the 3 pens, the 3 cheaper ones. I shouldn't say cheaper, but like the non-anodized versions, you get those as gifts, and you get yourself, effectively, if they're $29 and you spend $100, that means you get this guy, the nicer one, for you for free. You can think about it that way as well. And you'd have some nice gifts for family, friends, coworkers, etc. At the end of the year. If you're somebody that writes a lot, like especially when I was doing Geek Squad, which is like sort of like a retail tech support hybrid, the used pens all the time because you're just writing notes. Nowadays it's mostly down to sticky notes, and if I'm thinking stuff through, I'm still old school and I want a notebook. And that is where a nice smooth pen for me, like a smooth writing pen, and a notebook, just to like put together ideas, work best. From there I'll probably actually put it into a computer, almost guaranteed. But something about like being able to draw next to writing, and yes, I have a Surface. I have my Surface Laptop Studio 2 now, where I could do that on. Still not the same vibe as putting pen to paper, which is why you've seen I got multiple Rhodia notebooks. I love these dot book. They're called reverse books, and I get the dot ones, which is also reverse. Instead of grid paper, you get dots. That is game changing, the dot paper. And before that, I was using their dot paper, the memo book, before that existed. I do prefer the spine on it, and you can tear them out. So if you do work on something and you want to give it to somebody, you can, without, like, think about your standard spiral notebook where you don't have the perforated pages. Ugh. You get all those things stuck in there. You all remember that? Ugh. But yeah, I'll leave you guys with one last view of the Basic 4. And I really do think it is a smart looking, quite good looking design. Like, easily use that if you're a more businessy fellow in a meeting and that sort of stuff. And it would look, you know, I would agree. I'd take that over this battle-worn blue guy. You know, got a little bit of class to it with those stripes on it. Maybe part of what it is doing this also isn't, like, this guy was a spiral, I believe, starting either at the tip and going up or starting here and going down. This is actually like lines that are parallel as far as I can tell. Yeah, like they're not canted, right? But it's like actually milled lines going zoop 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 zoop. Just this is the only one that gave you a sneak peek, and then they give you, like, because they're developing these as they go. They have some ideas for the Basic 5 and 6, but have not like, they've only shown sneak peeks of, like, where they think they're going with it. But I really do think this one looked smart from even the get-go. And what can I say? I am a sucker for how it's set up too, where if you buy 3 of the normal ones, whoa, you get yourself this exclusive one, right? And not only that, it gave you the option to spend a bit more and bump yourself up, and you get some of these interesting ones where they used a one-time finish. I'd be interested to see how that wears. I can tell you it looks way darker green in this than it does, like, there. It just because of the texture, it reminds me of some of the, like, either really matte or really fluorescent textures, except it's just like green, you know, like an OD green color. With that brass, it's got a little flare, you know. So, questions, comments, throw them down below. everydaykeros.com. Pick up this guy for 29 bucks. I don't know that the subscription is still open. You can take a peek to see if it is. Otherwise, I don't think 30 bucks for a fully milled aluminum pen is bad by any means, when most of those normal price are going to run you minimum 60, I'd say, if not upwards of 100 plus, you know, and then more if you get into more exotic materials. Only on some pretty heavy sales will you get anywhere near what these are right out of the gate. So if you guys have any questions or comments, throw them down below. Always appreciate that. And keep an eye out, you know, hit that subscribe button, because 5 and 6 will be here, as well as you know, whatever originally this was supposed to be a #1, and I'm actually glad you guys bought up so many of the #1s that this exclusive one actually ended up being for #2, which I preferred the design of over this one. I'm not saying it's a bad design. It's based on their dragon skin, which I know is one of their more recent popular ones, which is this guy. Just a simplified version of that. But in hand, it's a bit more limiting on where you can hold it. You know, because you got to kind of go in one of those groups. And like I said, this is far more my jam. Let's see the next one. Peace.